Hello, everybody. It is Romania Black, and we're on episode 6 of Yona of the Dawn. I'm so excited. Red hair. Oh, man. Last episode, Yona really came onto her own, right? So I'm glad that Yona went through. What I like about this show so far is the pacing of it, and I understand that this whole anime series for Yona is just the prologue. It's just manga volumes 1 through 8, and it's still ongoing now. I think it's like volume 36. So there's tons of story left over, which I'm really excited about. But I love that this show has taken its time to introduce Yona and Hawk and Soo-Won. And we still don't know a lot about Soo-Won, actually. We know very little about him, really. But at least Hawk and Yona, we've had these last 5 episodes to really delve into their characters, for Yona to go through the stages of grief with her dad's death, to realize just how much the Wind Tribe is doing for her, and to realize that she wants to protect them, and for Yona to step up and become a princess, to basically be like, yeah, I'm supposed to be governing these people, and I don't know anything about them. So for her to like take ownership and agency and then decide against Tae-Jun and be like, nah, I ain't gonna let you sit around and fire arrows at my dude Hawk. Not gonna have that. I absolutely love it. And then at the very end of the episode, when she finally like takes charge and confronts him, like her hair starting to glow and like her eyes getting fire in them, she has a very Phoenix motif behind her in the OP. So I'm like, is there gonna be something with that? Kind of like the guys have dragons. Is she gonna have like a Phoenix thing too? That's really cool. I hope so. But yeah, I'm really, really curious. But yeah, so we don't know any of the other characters yet. We just know Hawk is in danger and Yona is gonna save him. It's like, yes, I am all about it. But yeah, I'm really excited, y'all. We're 6 episodes in, so we're at the 1/4 mark of the season, which is crazy that we're a fourth of the way into it already. But I'm gonna be reading the manga afterwards. There's gonna be a lot more Yona to come, so I'm not worried about that. But yeah, I'm really excited, y'all. I don't know what to expect. Last episode was surprising. I didn't think that we'd already run into the Fire Tribe and have this whole conflict like we've had. I didn't think Hawk was going to get arrowed this soon. I mean, the OP shows him getting arrowed, but I didn't think that it would be like this early on in the season. So that's interesting. I do want to make note before we start that Annie Flowers, who's a big Yona fan that's been commenting on here, pointed out the idea that I hadn't really even thought about this, but there's a time period where Soo-Won kind of went away. Like, because we showed in early on in the season, Soo-Won and Yona and Hawk all together as children when Yona gets sick. And then there's a big gap of time that passes that Soo-Won is gone and not present. And then he comes back here recently. And I hadn't really thought about that. But now that I think about it, I'm like, wait, his dad died, supposedly killed by King Il. Why didn't Soo-Won stay with Hawk and Yona and the king right after that? Unless he was sent somewhere else and that's where he found out that King Il killed his father and all of that. Did King Il not want Soo-Won around because he killed his brother and he felt guilty and he didn't want to have like the man that he killed's son around? What happened in that? I have a feeling that during that time Soo-Won was gone, there was some indoctrination or some like false information like spewed into Soo-Won that fostered all this resentment and anger towards King Il and basically convinced him to kill him. I mean, not that Soo-Won needed convincing, he wanted to avenge his dad, but that maybe some misinformation was given to him and it was just fostered over the years so that he felt compelled and felt more ownership to kill King Il. I don't know. Annie brought that up and I was like, huh, yeah, he was gone. So that's interesting. And I know that we'll probably find more about him, so don't spoil me, but that's very fascinating. So anyway, we're going to start episode 6 of Yona the Dawn. Just wanted to put that out there that I find Soo-Won interesting and I can't wait to learn more about his character. So we're going to start this episode here though and figure out what's going on with our ragtag duo here in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Oh my gosh. This episode was amazing. This has been my favorite episode of the series so far. And at this point, I'm like, why aren't more people watching the show? Because it's really good. It's so good. Oh my gosh. I love this. So Soo-Won. So God, there's so many interesting aspects talked about in this episode. Talking about the power of people versus gods, like divinity versus moral agency of mortal agency. Yona with some kind of power. There's some kind of power with that hair, y'all. There's some kind of power with that hair. Don't spoil me, obviously, because I'm gonna read the manga after this. So even if they don't get to it in the anime, I'm gonna read the manga after this and react to it on here. So I know that it's coming. But oh man, Soo-Won got a lot more interesting. 2, Hawk deserves all the medals. And then 3, Yona girl. Yona getting it. And finally meeting the priest. And the priest, I thought Yoon was going to be the priest from the OP. I was like, okay, Yoon's going to be the priest. Nah, it's this guy with the hair over his eyes, the blonde, that looks all jokey, but I'm like, he seems very carefree carefree and whimsical, but I have a feeling that's not the case. I'm sure he has a serious side because he left because of Soo-Won, of Yu-Hong. Can't imagine why. Their personalities seem totally different. But yeah, so Yona in this episode, her hair with the fire to it and her eyes with the fire, and Tae-Jun is just enamored by it. But it's not just that. It's almost like Tae-Jun, he can't take his eyes off of her, and he's almost like kind of possessed by it, right? That fire in her eyes and that hair, it's almost like Tae-Jun becomes like attached to her even more so than he already, because he was originally just liking Yona because he wanted her to marry him so that he could get power. I don't think he really actually liked Yona or cared that much about her. He just wanted to use her to gain power because Soo-Won's really smart and he knows exactly, and he's been taught someone's taught him that each of the tribes have a certain desire, and the fire tribe wants to act like they're on your side, but they're constantly looking for power and wanting to take over. So Soo-Won knows that they're just trying to take the throne from the sky tribe. And so, which I like that we have elements. We have wind, fire, water, and wind, fire, water, and earth, and then we have sky, like sky's an element. But yeah, so interestingly, Tae-Jun only wanted Yona for her power as the princess so he could take over. But then it seemed like when he stared into her eyes and the fire and the hair and everything, it almost felt like it made him attracted to her and made him like want to follow her and be near her, which is interesting, right? And in the OP, we have all these dragons like surrounding her, following her. So I wonder if there's something to that. And then, yeah, man. So, and it's funny that the dragons, that the Kyoka Kingdom, their symbol is a dragon, like the other dragon guards. Only hers is the red dragon, like a fire dragon, right? Is a red dragon, whereas the others aren't. That color scheme, interesting. But yeah, it almost seemed like he was possessed to follow her, because when they fell off the cliff, he tried to follow her down there too. Oh, interesting. So, but it doesn't seem like, because you could argue on the one hand that Hawk is attracted to Yona then because of that, but she's not activated her hair before or had the fire in her eyes. So Hawk's just in love with her because he's in love with her. That's all there is to it. But yeah, it's so interesting. Tae-Jun in this episode, and the way they animated him when she died, or supposedly died, he looked so heartbroken and so like, I just messed up really bad. And he wanted Soo-Won to punish him, and then Soo-Won wouldn't. And there's a part of that where Soo-Won's like, you're going to suffer more if I don't punish you, so I'm not going to. And it's like, that's almost worse than getting punished, right? Oh, that silence. This episode was so damn good. The choreography of the fight with Hawk and the guards, the choreography and the animation, like the desperation that Hawk's like trying to keep going, and the way that the animation does the movement of him fighting and everything, and like the way that they animate like his arm movements and everything has weight to it. Like then when he like spins the spear on his shoulders, like that animation, it's just as good as any other shonen. I'm like, what the heck, show? And the way they animated him, like getting like slashed, and then them all coming after him, and the way that he just moves around like a top. And the way they animated him and looking exhausted and the light hitting him. It's just, they did such a good job on this episode of animating that fight scene and the choreography. It was so damn good. And like the shadow and everything, and the way the poison seeps in it turns black and white. Oh, Oh, I could watch this episode over and over again. It's so good. Yeah, that thing of the spear swinging on his neck. I'm like, y'all, that's better than half the shonen I've watched in the last year. That's that animation. It's so damn good. It's so damn good. Y'all, why aren't we watching this show? But yeah, him falling. And then Yona, and he makes a desperate attempt to grab, and even the animation of his hand like spasming trying to grab the stone. And then Yona freaks out because she thinks he's gonna die. And she's like, no. And then I was wondering this whole time, I'm like, how is she gonna cut the hair? How is the hair getting cut? And how fitting that she runs after him and Tae-Jun grabs her by the hair, and then she grabs the sword and chops it off, and he's just left. And the whole time, he never let go of the hair. When he came down, when he was climbing down the cliff, when he was scaling down, Tae-Jun didn't let go of the hair. He kept it clutched in his hands. And it's almost like the hair is like magnetizing him to her. Like he just can't, like grabbing fire. Like he can't let go of it. He's drawn to it. And then she's like, you've made me get a bad haircut. And then, oh man. Yep, and she chops it off and it's established she never liked her hair to begin with, so her cutting it, she doesn't care. But yeah. And then she has that fire in her eyes. Yeah, oh my god, it's like magma. And then yeah, he can't do anything. And even the soldiers, they can't attack her because of the fire in her eyes. There's something to it. And the strands of hair started to glow like fire. There's something to it. Don't spoil me, but I'm so intrigued. I love that. I love it. And she's like, I'll never forgive you if you die. It's like you love Hawk. Just, damn it, admit that you love him. In the manga, she better get to that point. At some point, author, mangaka, she better get to that point because it's so obvious. And the Hawk's like, excuse me? But yeah. And then, yeah, her trying to save him. And then her crying and it falling on his face. And then Tae-Jun can't save her. She falls off the cliff before he can reach her. And he tried to do it with one hand. He still didn't let go of the hair. And then he tries to follow her down. It's amazing. And they're like, no. Yeah, but that animation on his face, that animation, seeing that she's dead. And here's the thing, yeah, he didn't care about her that much, but then after that whole thing with the hair, he suddenly really cared about her. So, something happened to him. Something happened. He looked into the void, and something happened. And the guards are like, oh. But yeah, that animation in this episode the animation on expressions has been really good in this episode, but when the lighting in them hits a certain way, I almost feel bad for Tae-Jun because it's just he got overzealous and greedy and he thought that he could do this on his own and then it all went to hell. But so we're going to talk about Yoon and the priest and everything. But I find it fitting that we have the coronation and dawn breaking. And so Soo-Won finding out that they died. So Ki-Suk, is that Ki-Suk? Is it the same guy? I think it's the same guy. Yeah, they just maybe just the way that they did the subtitles. But Soo-Won doesn't cry. Now I think it's interesting that Soo-Won, he doesn't cry when they die. He doesn't cry at their deaths, but they may be saving that for later. But he is obviously sad that they died. I mean, he obviously is sad that they died. And then we get the flashback later on where he basically states that he always knew that if he was going to become king, they weren't going to be by his side, which I find interesting because Hawk brings up a really good point. He's like, you could just marry Yona and then we'll get to that whole scene because that was like, it was so interesting, but I was always like, Hawk, you were just like a masochist self-torturing yourself. And we'll get to that. But yeah, him getting the hair and looking obviously stunned by it. And then, yeah, Ki-Suk saying that's treason. You shouldn't have done this. And he's like, Tae-Jun's like, I expect punishment. And he doesn't get any. It's like, damn. But so as far as Soo-Won knows, he thinks Hawk and Yona are dead. So at this point, he thinks Hawk and Yona are dead. And obviously, he's very sad about it. And then, yeah. So, but they're not dead, as we find out. But yeah, Tae-Jun still has that look on his face, like, punish me. And then he even cries because he doesn't get punished. It's like Tae-Jun's character goes from being this arrogant, cocky guy that's so smug to, after experiencing Yona's magic red hair, he's like completely devastated at the idea of her being dead. It's like, oh, there's something going on, and I'm so fascinated. But yeah, Soo-Won just holding the hair and thinking about her. And even on the day of coronation, him thinking about her. It's interesting. It's like he clearly does care about Yona, but we'll talk about that with the coronation scene. So yeah, we get Yoon singing the song, and of course it's about the big red sun being gobbled up and everything turning black. I'm like, I find it no coincidence they sing about a big red sun when we just had Yona and her fiery red hair looking like the sun, you know, and looking like she had sun in her eyes. I find it no coincidence. There's something to that. But then he's like, oh, what a bother, someone's dead. And I'm sorry, but Hawk continuing to be husbando goals, even in the face of death while he's poisoned. He wrapped his arms around her to try to shield her from the fall. Dude, Yona, get a grip, girl. I cannot. Hawk's long, hard suffering. His watch begins, right? I also want to note that it's interesting that we get this sexy eye candy shot of Soo-Won in the bath, but he's in his robe. I'm like, I'm wondering one of two things. If one, he actually is in the robe in the manga, and they just, and I'm like, I cannot imagine bathing with a silk robe on. I think that'd be just uncomfortable, and how would you truly get clean? So I'm wondering if that was just censorship on the anime's part, if in the manga he actually is naked, and it's just the anime wanted to censor it, so they put the robe over him. I'm like, come on, anime, you can't give us that. But yeah, so basically, the guy that Hawk said would be the next general, he's put in charge, the young kid, but they're full of energy, as Kisuk says, and then Moondok and them are coming. And I like that the bathhouse is shielded by these blankets. This little blanket fort is going to keep you from seeing Soo-Won nude. Or he's not even nude, so I don't even know why do you even need the blanket fort? He's not nude. So, and then I like that Kisuk the whole time has his eyes closed respectfully, for the most part. But yeah, the dawn he sees reminding him of Yona. It's just like roll credits. So yeah, it's funny. I don't think I've really paid attention to how the Koka kingdom has been designed, but the castle of the red dragon symbolizes. So we have a big dragon motif with this show, and the dragons are representations of the guardians, the generals. So we have the red dragon, which is, Yona may not even be a phoenix. She may be a red dragon, perhaps. Or maybe the phoenix is the red dragon. We're not exactly sure. But she has the dragons guarding her. And this whole coronation scene was really, really interesting. I really love this scene. Soo-Won's character, it's hard for me to outright hate Soo-Won because he's obviously the antagonist. I'm mad that he killed King Il. I want to know more about the whole story because there's clearly something else going on. But I can't hate him. I just can't. It's kind of like Yao from Modazushi. I can't quite hate Yao because there's just an aspect of him that's slightly sympathetic. And his character has so much depth and is relatable in some ways that I'm like, I can't quite hate him, but I'm more curious his motivations. And with Soo-Won, we're not quite sure the motivations of his character yet. But yeah, I find it no coincidence, or it is coincidence, but I find it funny that he's in the yellow robes, and then in Modazushi, Yao's in the Jin robes, and it's yellow too. It's like the same motif. I'm like, it's very funny. And he said, I swore to myself that I would return to this castle one day. So like I said at the beginning of this reaction that Annie pointed out, he's been gone for a while, and it seemed that he decided when he came back, that would be when he killed King Il. So it seemed like he was preparing for this moment, but only until he was ready to truly kill King Il and take the throne. So I guess he did want to become king. Interesting. And so then, yeah, she's like, and when he first arrives, that's when Yona, I guess, well, but this too seems like, yeah, so she must have saw him, and then I don't know, because when she first ran into him, okay, wait, back in episode 1, this must have been right before she ran into him, because back in episode 1, she opened up the back in episode 1, she's running around the corner to meet up with him, and that's when she runs into him. But in this, she's opening up the window, so that must have been right when she was getting ready to see him, like around the same time. Interesting. And then Hawk meeting him too. Yeah. So, very curious. I get total bisexual vibes from Soo-Won. Very much. It's like Soo-Won's like, well, I don't really like Yona that way. I kind of care for her more like a sister, but Hawk. Maybe Soo-Won wanted Hawk this whole time. The irony of ironies. Yona wants Soo-Won, but Soo-Won wants Hawk, but Hawk wants Yona. It's not even a love triangle. It's just a circle. Oh, God. So, yeah. I love the idea that Moondog, and then Soo-Won says that Moondog said he had a natural aptitude for combat, which is suggesting that Soo-Won can fight. And then Hawk's like, but you've never beat me in practice. And I'm sure that Soo-Won's never gone all out. So, but he says it's natural for you to be strong since you must protect Princess Yona. And so I get the vibe in this that Soo-Won knows that Hawk likes Yona. Now he knows that Yona likes him, but Hawk doesn't know that Soo-Won likes him. It's just a big old circle. God. And then he admits that he's jealous. But I truly am jealous that Yona has you for a servant. See, here's the thing. Because Soo-Won's like, I'd like to have you as a servant. And then Hawk's like, but you have servants too. And he's like, I want you. Like, he just comes out and says it. This family, Yona and Soo-Won, when they want something, they're pretty vocal about it. And then Hawk's long suffering. Hawk's like, well, then become the king then. He's like, and then at first Soo-Won's like, what? And he's like, yeah, marry Princess Yona and become the king. He's like, but I could never marry Yona. So we're establishing that Soo-Won doesn't want to marry Yona. Soo-Won does not have romantic feelings towards Yona. No. We're establishing that. And then, yeah, he's like, but you want me, don't you? And he's like, oh, it was a figure of speech, but he's blushing. Uh-huh. He's like, and Hawk says, either way, as far as I'm concerned, you're the only man who could become the next king. Suggesting that, none of these other suitors are good enough. You're the only one good enough to become king of this kingdom. And it says, when you do, I'll be your right arm. And I'll stand by both of you until the day that you die. Hawk is like, I want to just like nestle Hawk like right here and just take him with me, because I'm like, the dude, Hawk clearly loves Yona. He loves her, but he is such a freaking gentleman and he's so damn noble that he is gonna suffer the rest of his life letting Yona marry his best friend Soo-Won and have their kids or whatever, and he's gonna stand by their side till they die with this unrequited love. And I'm like, good sir, I can't take it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. Yeah, and by the way, I'll need 3 meals a day and a nap. Uh-huh. It's a great deal. After all, I'm the Thunder Beast of Quokka. And then Soo-Won just laying his head against Hawk and saying, that's such a wonderful dream. Bisexual Soo-Won, I'm calling it now. Do it. Either that or he's just into Hawk, but holy cow. Which, how could you not be into Hawk? Come on. Dude's a dreamboat. But yeah, he's like, I wish it could, you could just tell he's like, I wish it could be that way. I wish, and then he says, please protect Yona. Damn. And when I become king, he's thinking to himself, Yona and Hawk will not be by my side. So he knew from then and there that it wasn't going to happen. And the warm days today make me doubt myself a bit. Yeah, so his resolve, he has this unwavering resolve. And I'm like, dude, I just want to know more about Soo-Won. And I know the manga's going to give it to us, but I'm so curious. But now my right arm is gone. Hawk is gone, and so is Yona. And he looks so serious. Like that, he has a very Yu Hong. He has a very look like his father there, where he's so serious. He's like, I can't doubt myself now because Hawk is gone and Yona's dead. And Tae-Jun is there looking miserable. Mm-hmm. And all the tribes are there. Uh-huh. As is the girl who gave me warmth. So it's like, yeah, He's like, now my warmth is gone. I've crushed them underfoot and cast them off to make it this far. Very Yao-like getting rid of all those that would offer me compassion or love. Doing his ambition. He's like, I've cast them aside and crushed them under my feet so I could have this ambition to have this moment. And then they're like, oh, I'm sure he'll make a great king because he's Yu Hong's son. Damn. And then all the eyes are on him. And I'll doubt myself no longer. And that look, yeah, Moondog makes a good point. He's like, I want the kind smile of the boy that I saw before. The question is, was that kind smile genuine? Was it truly a genuine smile? Or has he always been? I don't think he's always been like this, but I agree with Moondog. It's scary seeing Soo-Won doubtless with the cold look that he has, very much like his father. And Moondog wanting to go back to having that kind smile again. It's so intriguing. The 11th king of the kingdom of Quokka. So there's not been a lot. It's not been a long time that they've been a kingdom, right? That crown is pretty epic, though. Indeed. I don't know if Hawk would wear that. Hawk would probably be like, nah. But so I love this part too, where Soo-Won goes through each and every tribe and all their motivations. I love that because it shows that Soo-Won has clearly been taught what to expect out of each tribe. And so, of course, the fire tribe puts on airs. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll protect you. And we're so happy that you have the loyalty, absolute, blah, blah, blah. And I like that as he's just monologuing, Soo-Won's like, the fire tribe, they pretend to support me, but their eyes are always on the throne. So Soo-Won's not dumb. Absolutely not. And I like this guy, the guy that looks like Mingju meets Asahi. And he's just like so with the leopard print and everything and the golden eyes. Says the Earth tribe submits to a powerful master. And that guy has the smirk. I like him. I like the Earth tribe leader with that eyebrow smirk. So here's the thing. Hawk could totally end up becoming king in the end. Totally. Because the fire tribe's not going to stop Hawk. The Earth tribe would totally submit to having Hawk as king because Hawk is amazingly powerful. So that would all work out. Sure. But it makes sense that the Earth tribe, they want something stable and grounded and has a support. Makes sense. And then, of course, the Water tribe will wait and see how things go. They go with the flow. They're just fluid. They'll just go with whatever happens. I like it. And then the Wind tribe. The Wind tribe have been quiet since they put pressure on them, but they have many strong warriors trained by Moondog. And they're all young warriors. They're young and vibrant, full of life, like a breath, a youthful breath. And when they learn of Hawk's death, they'll bare their fangs. Yeah, so they don't even know the Hawk's dead yet. So that's going to be a problem. And then he notes that there's the Kai Empire to the north. That's a problem. And there's the Sei Kingdom and the Shin country, the Shay and Sin countries to the south. So the crowning of a new king is going to draw attention to those other kingdoms that could possibly be a threat to them. So he's like, we have to unite these clans first, these divided clans. We have to unite them in order to make our kingdom stronger so that we're not going to be under risk of attack. And he comes off really strong from the beginning. But I like this idea that Moondog brings up. As you know, there's no priest within the castle. And I'd forgot about that in the moment. But yeah, Soo-Won's father drove out the priest, right? The gods above are watching. And there's this very interesting, he says, they will see what you accomplish on the backs of what sacrifices, as will this old man. So Moondog's the spiritual guy, and he's like, only after I've seen that will I join the late King Il. So that in that moment, he's suggesting, he's like, yeah, you're the king now, but I'm watching over you, as are the gods. They know what you've done to King Il. They know what's happened. So the country doesn't know that Soo-Won killed King Il, but Moondog's pretty sure he knows. He knows. So he's like, the gods are watching you. They know what you've done. But yeah, we have this interesting dialogue between Soo-Won and Elder Moondog here that he suggests. Soo-Won says, a heaven that only watches has no meaning for me. So Soo-Won's pretty nihilistic about all this and saying, I do not want gods, but the power of people. So yeah, and you get where Soo-Won is coming from because his father being killed. I'm sure Soo-Won questioned, like, why would this happen? Why would the gods do this? Why would they have my father be killed if he was a good person? again, we don't know all about Yu-Hong, but you can tell Soo-Won is not a spiritual person. Soo-Won is much more pragmatic. And Moondok is clearly a spiritual person too. So we have this discussion. He's like, I'll record. He's basically saying the power of the people is what's going to save this kingdom, not the power of the gods. He's like, should anyone stand in my way, even if they are a god, I'll crush them under my feet. And everybody's like, okay, cool, great speech, sir. But the thing is, there is this discussion of the divine and spiritual, right? So Soo-Won is not believing in the spiritual. He's just believing the power that people have. Whereas Moondok and the priest and Yoon clearly have a more belief in the power of the divine and the spirituality that has, a part in all of this. And that's so interesting because after this scene, we cut to Yoon and the priest with Yona and Hawk. And I'm sorry, they do explain the June or Yoon, I don't want to call him June, it's Yoon, and there's even a point where I think that there is a spiritual element though. Soo-Won doesn't seem to believe in the gods or believe that there's a spiritual element out there because he's obviously been molded by that by his dad's death. But there clearly is, because in this moment, as Yoon is healing Yona and doing the droplets of the orange, Yona can hear voices of a crowd and Soo-Won. So there's a connection there, right? And so I want to say, even though Yoon says, oh, well, you guys survived the fall because the trees must have braced it and Hawk grabbed a branch and that braced your fall and everything. Okay, sure. But I definitely think that part of the healing and stuff is a bit more divine. There's some kind of spirituality and supernatural divinity to it that allowed them to heal as well. So, and he just shoves the orange rind in her mouth. I'm Yoon. I'm just a passing handsome boy. You don't have to remember me. But he has those cute little feathers. How could you not remember him? He seems kind of like a shaman, sort of. And he seems kind of like a medicine man. And then we have the priest as well. And then Hawk, because he got the poison out somehow. But Hawk is really, really injured. Like, dude, I feel for him. He's so, like, with his hand and everything. Bless his heart. Poor Hawk. Because he's out right now. He's alive, but just barely. And he lost a lot of blood. So yeah, and I love that Yoon's onto it. Everybody else is onto it except for Yona. Yoon's like, he literally about died to save you. So are you his lover? And she's like, no. And he's like, I feel sorry for him. We all do. We all feel sorry for Hawk and his long time suffering as he continues to protect Yona, who does not return his feelings. Like, come on. Come on. I want to read this in the manga so bad. I can't wait. But yeah. Why is he so devoted to you? Like, She's like, not at all. He looks directly in the camera. Yoon's like, I feel bad for him. Like, saying what needs to be said. And so, yeah. And then we get the priest. So we're getting into this really interesting aspect about people's power versus the divine. But here's the thing. I don't think Soo-Won knows about the fiery hair. And so that's clearly like a divine power that's been bestowed, right? I wonder if it's inheritable or something, or it's passed down through generations, because in the OP we have clearly the 4 dragons surrounding her, so I'm so interested. But yeah, this priest, this bumbling priest that seems, and he says, heaven has abandoned you. Yoon says that. So yeah, I'm so curious about the priest character, because clearly he left because of Yu-Hong. I'm so fascinated. Iksu. I'm something like you's guardian. Like maybe like a training Yoon to be a priest too. Interesting. But he already knows who Yona is. I'm assuming because he knows her hair. He knew her from when she was a kid. So I can't wait until the next episode to find out more about this priest and to find out more about Yona and maybe her hair and all of that. Like, I want to learn more. Oh my gosh, this episode was so good and I loved it. This has been my favorite episode so far. And yeah, I want to know more. So yeah, I'm so curious to know your thoughts down below. This episode was so wild and I loved it, but I want to know what y'all thought as well. Don't spoil me because I am going to read the manga after this. So if we find out more later on, I'm curious. But yeah, and then I like that Yoon says you don't know how to lie because he's the priest, because you're not supposed to. But yeah, I'm curious to know what you all thought down below. This show has my heart, and I can't wait for the next episode. I'm so excited. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, next week we'll do episode 7 of Yona of the Dawn. Bye.